Hello, this is Amber Willenberg from the U of L Libraries, and in this video, we're going to talk about developing a search strategy and using that search strategy to find sources for your annotated bibliography assignment. This assignment requires you to find 5 credible sources, 3 of which should be peer-reviewed. We'll start by talking about peer-reviewed sources, also called scholarly or academic sources. Let's take a look at this article, #influenced, the impact of social media influencing on self-esteem and the role of social comparison and resilience. This is a peer-reviewed source, but how do we know this? First of all, we can read the abstract to see that in this study, we investigate the impact of positivity-based images of female social media influencers on the state self-esteem of female participants. In other words, the purpose of this article is to present research. This is a key feature of scholarly articles. They add new knowledge to an ongoing scholarly conversation, in this case a larger conversation about social media influencers' effect on followers' self-esteem. Next, we can see that the authors work in the Department of Psychology at the University of Mannheim. Academic articles are usually written by professional scholars associated with a college or university. You can see that this article was published in Frontiers in Psychology. If we Google this title, we can easily find out that this is a peer-reviewed journal, meaning articles published in the journal undergo a formal review process involving other scholars reading and responding to the work. Finally, if we scroll to the end of this article, we'll find an extensive bibliography with tons of citations. Academic articles are written as part of a larger scholarly conversation on a topic, and the bibliography shows how the authors have situated themselves within that conversation. By citing peer-reviewed sources like this in your own research, you're participating in the scholarly conversation as well. Now that we have an understanding of what scholarly sources are, we can talk about finding them. The library is the best place to get started with your research, and it's especially useful for finding scholarly sources. These types of sources are expensive, and your tuition dollars help pay for the library to provide access to them. While you might be able to find some scholarly sources on Google, you'll often run into a paywall and not be able to read the whole article for free. Another issue with searching for peer-reviewed sources on Google is that you'll probably get millions of results for your search and have a hard time narrowing the results down to high-quality academic sources. In library databases, your searches will return fewer results, but the results have been curated by humans who decided that these sources are useful for college-level research. However, because library databases are more specialized, it's helpful to develop a strategy before we begin searching. Let's say our research question is, what impact does social media have on self-esteem? If we were using Google to do our research, we could simply search for this question as is to get results. When searching in the library, though, we'll search using keywords, the most important words from our research question, since database searching is more specialized than Google searching. In this case, social media and self-esteem are the most important keywords from our question. We don't just want to stop there, though. It can be helpful to think about ways of broadening and narrowing this question with our keywords. We could think of different words for self-esteem, like self-image or self-confidence. We could specify particular types of social media, like Instagram or TikTok. We could even focus on particular populations who might have their self-esteem influenced by social media, like women or adolescents. Brainstorm as many keywords as you can. Having more keywords gives you more options for your search, so you don't get overwhelmed or stuck when you start searching. Once you've developed your search strategy, you can begin using that strategy to find sources through the library. Let's get started on the library homepage, library.louisville.edu. If you're off campus, you can still use the library's resources. You'll just be prompted to log in with your ULink ID and password when accessing our resources. The best place to get started finding scholarly sources is the library's subject guides. These subject guides divide up library databases by subject area, making it easier for you to find the most relevant resources for your research topic. For my research question about social media and self-esteem, I might choose to search in communication databases or psychology databases. A database is simply a searchable collection of thousands of sources, many of which are scholarly sources. A good starting point for any research is the Any Topic Guide, and I would recommend you all get started with your research here. We'll click on the first recommended database listed here, EBSCO Academic Search Complete. EBSCO Academic is a multidisciplinary database that covers a wide variety of subject areas. Most of you will be able to find sources for your research in this database, but feel free to search in subject-specific databases as well. In EBSCO Academic, one of the first things you'll notice is that there are multiple search boxes at the top of the page. This is why we developed our search strategy with a list of keywords. We'll enter one keyword per box. Let's try some searches. First, we'll put social media in the first box and self-esteem in the second. This search gave us over 1,000 results. We can go ahead and look through these results to see if any are useful. Then we'll probably want to change up our search to try to narrow it down. Let's add adolescents to our search. We now have just over 300 results. Keep in mind that you'll probably try out several searches with different combinations of the keywords on your list to get the most relevant results. If you click source type under the search box, you can see that most of our results are academic sources, but we do have some magazine articles as well. In addition to scholarly sources, library databases contain magazine and newspaper articles. Since you need peer-reviewed sources for your annotated bibliography, we'll go ahead and click the peer-reviewed button under the search box to get rid of everything that isn't scholarly. At this point, you can begin looking through the articles to find sources that seem relevant to your research question. I'm going to go ahead and click on this article, Adolescents on Instagram, Consider the Effects of Envy and the Need for Relatedness on Self-Esteem. I know this is a peer-reviewed article because it's labeled as peer-reviewed. In library databases, news will be labeled as news, and other source types will be labeled appropriately, so it's really easy to tell what you're looking at. The first thing you should do when you click on an article is scroll down and read the abstract. Always read the abstract because it will give you a quick overview of the whole article, helping you determine if it's useful for your research before you read the whole thing. Another helpful tool here is the Cite button, a little quotation mark at the top right. Click this to get the citation for the article in the appropriate style. If you decide you want to save this article to read later, there are a couple of options you can choose from. First, you can see if there is a PDF or download button available under the article. If so, feel free to save that directly to your computer. Another option is to use the Share Arrow button to email yourself the article. If there is no PDF or other access options, you can click More Information. In this case, our library doesn't have this article available, so you can simply click the Request Item through Interlibrary Loan button to request a copy of the article be sent to you. You'll fill out a form and we'll send you the PDF of the article, usually within a few days. Only 3 of your sources have to be peer-reviewed, and you can find some other credible sources like news and magazines in library databases. Google is another great place to find credible, non-peer-reviewed sources, but you have to be careful to assess the credibility of information you find there. Remember, Google searches the entire internet for results that match your search, so you might have some bad information from unreliable sources slip through the cracks. A quick trick for assessing the credibility of sources you find on Google is to simply open up a new tab and see what you can find out about a source outside of that source. For example, I found this article related to my research question on the Psychology Today website. If I was unsure what type of source this is and if it's credible, I could open up a new tab, Google Psychology Today, and check out their Wikipedia page. Wikipedia is a great place to find out about the reputation of a source. In this case, I can find out that this is an online magazine focused on psychology with blogs written by psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, and others in mental health fields. You can also talk to your instructor or a librarian if you're unsure about the credibility of a particular source you find. This has been a brief overview of using the library to conduct research and find peer-reviewed sources. If you ever have any questions while conducting research, librarians are here to help. On the library homepage, click Ask Us to chat with a librarian Monday through Friday from 9 to 5 and find more ways to get in contact with us. You can even schedule an in-person or virtual research appointment with a librarian for in-depth research help. Thanks!